All righty. Thank you all so much for joining us for today's webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. So today is our quarterly office hour sessions. The CodeMonkey team, as always, wants to thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar session. Our goal today is to make sure that you are covered for teaching CodeMonkey with your students and updated on any of the new changes that we have made. And so that is the purpose of today's office hours. This office hour session, as with every one of our quarterly office hour session, is based around the questions that we receive from you, our teachers, as well as any questions that we'll get from you throughout today's webinar. We want you to know that this session is for both new and returning CodeMonkey teachers. And we know that some of you have been using CodeMonkey this year with your students, either distance learning or hybrid or a combination of both or everywhere in between. This year is definitely daily changes. So we want to just go over a few of our main features, mainly the ones that we're getting a lot of questions about, update you about new ones, and then any questions that you have, if you pop them in the Q&A box, you can also chat along the side. It's easier for us to track your questions inside of the Q&A box here. All right, so today's office hours. So you can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at our handle, which is CodeMonkey-STU. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and then check out our blog for any kinds of updates or anything like that. So during today's webinar, you can tweet at us using the hashtag CodeMonkeyWebinar, as you can see down on the right-hand side of our slides for today's webinar. We will do our best to answer any live tweets during our webinar today. And if we weren't able to get to you, we'll follow up directly after today's webinar. And that also proceeds with any questions that have been unasked. So now, without further ado, we're going to introduce the team for us. So I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Lena Saleh. I'm the Professional Development and Sales Manager here at CodeMonkey. And I'll go ahead and let Talia introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Talia, Head of Customer Success. Always exciting to have this office hours and see some familiar names here and some new names. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Molly Schubach, and I am on the sales team. I am also going to be here helping out with the Q&A questions. So thank you all for joining us today.
Excuse me. Great. We always like you to know who's with you on today's webinar. So that's always an important component. So I just want to reiterate that we're here to answer any questions that you have. So you can chat with us along in the chat box, or you can also ask us any questions in the Q&A at any point in time. Following today's webinar, directly after today's webinar, a survey will pop up. And after that survey pops up, you'll get a professional development certificate that will be mailed to you. So without further ado, let's get ready to write code, catch bananas, and save the world. So our objectives that we'll be covering today are classroom and student access, adding co-teachers, limiting progress, lesson features, gradebook and proficiency report, and then we'll leave quite a bit of time for you for Q&A, as well as updating you on some of our new features and launches that we have upcoming. We always have all of our webinars available to you. You can go to codemonkey.com/webinars. They're always there for you, as well as on our YouTube channel. So we do like to keep those up to date for you to access at any time. All right.
Oh, not yet. Not yet with that slide.
Oh,
Lena.
Sorry.
It's a surprise.
Sorry.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, you got the first look before the first look.
Exactly. Okay, so hi, everyone. Let me share my screen. I'm going to continue from here with a short demo of the different features that are available. Just making sure. Lena, can you see my screen, the login screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to log into one of my accounts. I'm going to use the Google single sign-on. Sorry for this. This is Hebrew. Basically, I'm just going to choose my CodeMonkey account. And the reason I'm using my Google account is I want to show you actually also how to import Google Classrooms. So for that purpose, I need to log in using my Google account, the one I use for my Google Classrooms. And I have also my Google Classrooms ready right here. I already have a few classrooms here. I have an active subscription with available seats, but basically the first thing you would do on CodeMonkey is to create your classroom. You can either create just a new classroom right here, just a regular classroom, and then you would need to add your students, or you can import a Google Classroom with your students already in it, so that sort of saves you time of having to add your students later on. But let's talk about the different methods for adding students before I show you the way to import a Google Classroom. So actually, I'm going to go to the new classroom I've just created just to review the three available methods. And I can add students through the Students tab right here. By clicking on Add Students, I see the three methods. So the first two are relevant when you're looking to create your students' accounts. So you would give them a username and a password, which you can then share with them. And then they can just log into CodeMonkey using their username and password, and they're already in the classroom. So this is handy, especially for those younger students, and you want to create their accounts for them. So you can do that, or for students who don't have any Google accounts, for example, so they don't use any single sign-ons, so you would create usernames for them. The third method is having your students join using the class code. So that's handy, especially when you have students joining from home. You would just provide them with the classroom code. So either students joining from home, or this is what you would use in case your students are using any single sign-on methods. We have Google, Clever, ClassLink. So students are able to use these accounts, which is great because you don't want to have them remember another username and another password. So just let them use the single sign-on option. And you can just share with them this classroom code. It's a unique code that each classroom would have. And then they would be able to join using the class code, and they would enter your classroom with the code. I can show that later on if we'll have time. Another nice way is by providing them this unique link, which already has the code. So this would be less steps for your students. They wouldn't have to enter the code themselves. So I definitely recommend checking out this and using the link and sharing them the link instead. If you're able to share a link, if you're communicating online, you can send this. So that's the class code method. I'm gonna go back to the My Classrooms page because I want to show also the option to import a Google Classroom, which is very handy. I'm sure many of you use Google Classrooms. You already have your students grouped together, and this will definitely make your life easier, and your students wouldn't have to join using the class code, because once you import the classroom, the students would already be imported with it. Just one thing, the first time you sign into CodeMonkey using your Google account, you will be asked to to authorize CodeMonkey to view your Google Classrooms. So you will have here a message, and you'll just have to authorize that. And then you'll be able to go on and import classrooms. So I'm gonna import my Monday classroom. I'm going to have it connected to my subscription. And okay, let's click on create my classroom. So I'm just going to wait for CodeMonkey to import my classroom. And I have this confirmation that classroom import has been completed. And you can see my Monday class has been added with 3 students already in my classroom. Let me just click on the classroom so I can see. Let's go to the students tab. This is my classroom dashboard where I can perform different actions on the classroom and see my students. And indeed, these are my students. You can see them right here. So they've already been populated. Another thing I want to show you regarding Google Classroom is that you can at any point make any changes to your students or even to the classroom name. Once you do that on Google Classroom, you can just sync your classroom on CodeMonkey to have the changes reflected on CodeMonkey as well. So any changes to your students, if you're going to add any additional students, you would do that on your Google Classroom, and then you can sync the classroom on CodeMonkey and have the changes reflected. Okay. Okay, let me now show you just the student side, because we don't always show that, but I know it's important. So I'm going to share a new screen, just our home page, and I'm going to log in as a student who is in that Google Classroom. So this is something that you would need to direct your students to do. We also have a great help article, a student guide for students who are in a Google Classroom. So this would guide them for the steps that they need to do. But basically, once they access the login page, all they would need to do is click on the Google button in order to, and then they would need to choose their Google account. Once they do that, they are in their CodeMonkey account. They can choose their avatar. And they can see here the classroom names, and basically they have the courses here available to them, again, according to what you as the teacher have assigned to them. But that's it, just a few steps. And once they're in, they can already access the courses. So that's the student side of things. Okay. I'm going back to the My Classrooms page. Another thing I want to show you, you might have other teachers working with you on the same classroom also, and you would also need to provide them with access to the classroom. So you can add them as co-teachers. So as long as you have these teachers also added as teachers on your Google Classroom, so you see I've added myself also as a teacher on Google Classroom. But here from CodeMonkey, I would need to import the teacher, and then I can add them as a co-teacher to this classroom. So once they log into their account, they'll also be able to see this classroom, to perform all the actions. And as you can see, I've been added. So that's the first thing that you would do. Let's see.
And on this student list, just really quickly, I like to note that you can see that this student has this username here. So that's just important so you can see that they logged in correctly.
Right. Okay, Lina, you want to take it from here?
That was so quick. I felt like I blinked my eyes. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so we'll go ahead and now it's my turn to begin sharing. So we have recently, so when Talia just shared her screen about the student guides and how, the student screen looks like, we did recently add the tiling also of these, basically what the course is and what level they are to the courses page. So how I got here is on my classrooms page. You can see all of my classrooms are listed here, and I just clicked into a classroom. When I clicked into the classroom, it brings you right to the teacher behind the scenes dashboard here. It brings me right into the progress page. I'm going to come back to this progress page, but I want to talk about the courses. And so in the course page, I just clicked on it here on the top. We have these new improvements that we made here. So we're able to see all of the courses that we have here. And then when you click on the specific course, you can click read more. And here you're able to see a quick synopsis summary of what the course is going to be covering, what it's about, what specific coding concepts there are. You can click here and see the specific standards that are associated with the lesson plan. These are CSTA standards here. And then you can find the specific lesson plans for that specific course. You just click on view lesson plans and it's right there. And once it's assigned to the students, then they'll be able to see it on their side. We've had a lot of questions specifically around, I've assigned all 3 courses to my students in the Beaver Achiever. And so Beaver Achiever, Coding Adventure, and Banana Tails are a suite of courses. That means that students have to work linearly through those courses in order for the next course to unlock. So that's just something to keep in mind, a question that we've gotten a few times. And then here on this course page specifically as well, you can see the grade levels. I've been asked this, do the students see this? They don't, they only see this tiling and the name, this specific banner here that tells you the course and the specific language that's attached to it, and then the course name itself. You can see which device it's best for, so web or a tablet. So web is just, right through the web, and if it's available on a tablet device or if it works well. Once it's been assigned to the student, you see that it has a yellow banner that says, hey, this has been assigned. And if it hasn't, then you'll see this green button here for the students. Something else that we added new here is you can easily navigate now between all of your courses. You don't have to go back out to the classrooms page, but you can do that right over here on the side. You can quickly navigate between all of your classrooms, and then you have that ability to see those as well. Okay, so now let's go back to the progress page and let's just discuss this progress page here. So limiting progress is a pretty important feature for a lot of teachers, just depending on how you're kind of running your classroom. So as you can see here, I have this classroom specifically limited to only challenge 20. What that means is that the students will submit the challenge for challenge 20, but they won't be able to go on to challenge 21. They will be able to see all of the previous challenges up until that point, and then also able to see the skill mode challenges. Skill mode challenges are just specific reinforced concepts based on the reinforced challenges based on the concepts that they've learned. So specific to stepping and turning, specific to the turtle and turning to them. And they're scored in the exact same way. You're also able to see the solutions here as well. You can sort by progress the same way that you can in story mode as well. So those are there for them to have some extra practice and reinforcement. You can also, in this same thing, do it free play. That means it opens up completely for the students, or you can do it limited based on the last lesson taught. So if you are using lesson mode, this is an important feature. I've seen a lot of teachers say, oh, the kiddos have been able to fly past the specific challenges within the lesson. If you don't have this on here that says limit based on the last lesson taught, then the students will be able to continue to progress once you end the lesson mode. So that's just something that we like for you to keep in mind when you're working through those challenges or assigning them to the students themselves.
Okay. And I'll talk a bit about lessons, about the lessons feature. I'll share my screen again.
Share? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the lessons feature, you might already, some of you might be using this, but this is a really great, helpful feature that will help you run your coding classes even when you have students accessing from home. It's currently only available for Coding Adventure course. And this is great to use when you are using our lesson plans. So basically under the teacher resources, you can find lesson plans for all of our courses and for Coding Adventure as well, of course. But through the lesson feature, you can access the individual lesson plans. So here we are on lesson number 1. So we also have here access to just the individual lesson plan. Let's just open that up. And we have here the lesson plans with the different parts. We have the introduction, playtime. We were finishing up always with the debriefing. So that's our lesson plan available for you. And so if you can see, this page is structured according to the lesson plan. And it also gives you access to the different challenges and other great files here that you might want to open up when you are teaching this lesson. So this is a great way to conduct your lesson. It has it all structured here, and you can just use it this way, or you can go a bit further and use our lesson mode. So the lesson mode is this button right here. So you know how you're explaining something for your students, but they're already on CodeMonkey and they're clicking on things and they want to access things. So once you use the lesson mode, you click on begin lesson, and basically it will lock your students from all of the activities until you assign the challenges. So I'm going to confirm, and let's also see how the students would see this. So this is the student account. I'm just going to refresh, and you would see that the student is now locked. Everything here is closed and waiting for the teacher. So now you really have your students with you, focusing, and you can start with the introduction. And then only once you are ready for your students to start playing, you can click on the assigned challenges. And then your students, once they refresh their page, they can access these challenges until you end the playtime. And now you want to go into the debrief and talk about what we've learned in these challenges. And once you're done with your lesson, you can end the lesson. And the great thing about this, it marks your lesson here in green. So you know that you've completed this lesson. So once you're back meeting with this classroom, you're already, you know, it kind of saves, it keeps tracks of what lesson you last taught. So you can continue to the next lesson. Another little thing I wanted to add here, this is relevant for when you're using Google Classroom. This is currently an option that we have to assign challenges to your Google Classroom from CodeMonkey. So once you click on this, it will, let's see how it would look like in the classroom stream. So as you can see, I posted an assignment to my classroom. The post has a link to these challenges, and I can also, as the teacher, I can also choose to edit it. I can add more instructions. I might want to assign it to specific students. I might want to give it a due date. Or I can add different things. So that's available for you through Google Classroom. But I just wanted to show you that connectivity that you have. And of course, once your students have completed, they can, on their end, they can complete this as done. I will add that this won't show on, it won't show here. You would see that on your Google Classroom. So this is the lessons feature currently only available for Coding Adventure. And I really recommend using this. This is super handy, especially in remote, and especially when you are running a very structured lesson.
Another thing that I'll just note on here too is if you have students who are maybe a little bit further behind, when you assign those challenges to them within the lesson, it does have them bypass the challenges where they were. So this is a way to kind of keep all of your students together as well. So whether you use the lesson note in that way or you just assign it to the students, it kind of is a way to keep everyone on the same page.
Right.
Okay. So moving right along here, we are now in the Gradebook tab of everything here. And so in the Gradebook, I just clicked on this proficiency table, just something we like to note. This is all of the concepts that are covered throughout all of the courses within CodeMonkey. So you can see we have sequencing all the way to modules and import, sorts, input, output, just the different variances of coding concepts that the students will encounter throughout CodeMonkey. Here we can see that we have very novice to advanced. So the more that they are introduced and working through those concepts, the more advanced they become in the concepts themselves. So some teachers like to use it to see, oh, okay, they worked on a couple of different courses. Now I know that they need some remediation or some extra reinforcements to kind of help enhance those skills that they might be struggling on. Or they might be super advanced and just different variations. So then we also have just the typical gradebook here. You can change it based on numbers, letters, and percentages. You can also average it between, whichever concepts it is that you're working on within that course, all accessible fully from for all of the courses that we have here. You're able to see how many students completed this specific course, since the Dodo's Math is a shorter course. You're also able to see, if you're working through Platformer, you're able to see this pass-fail for students. You can see I have a couple of struggle busters here. You can see how many exercises they've reached, how many bonuses that the students have solved, so the average on the bonuses here, and then how many students have actually completed the course. So I really like to use this because I really like the statistics that are here at the bottom, just for some extra places to look. You can also export this into a CSV file, something like that as well. Before we get into the first look, I'd just like to make mention of something. I was speaking with a teacher the other day, and she wanted to kind of keep track and see. She was running a little mini coding competition with her students. And so she was looking for ways to be able to track the data. She had 70 classrooms, and she didn't want to check the data for every single classroom. So when you export all of this data from all of your classrooms to a CSV file, it will put them all organized by each classroom name, and you're able to see the ranking of the students. So just something I like to note as well for you there too.
Great. Lena, can you share your screen with the slide, please? Well, just something we wanted to give you a first look of a feature that we will release soon. This is it's a small addition, but it might have a big impact. We've been getting requests from teachers about this. Teachers looking to see more information per student. You have your students now either in class or from home. So it's really not the same. It's really hard to see what are they actually doing, how much time are they spending on CodeMonkey. So so from the progress tab, which Lena showed before, once you have all the students there, and once you would click on a student, so this is our new student activity dashboard, and this is it's not the final look, it's not the final design, but we really wanted to show you already what to expect coming real soon. And this will give you much more insight into your students' progress. How much time have they spent on CodeMonkey in the last few days? You can see the course progress at the bottom. So this is a great way if you want to look into a specific student. He might be a student that is struggling, or you might be communicating with their parent. So this is one place where you can see information about this student. You can navigate between the courses and see their progress within the courses. Or you can see some nice stats at the top right, how many games they've created, how many challenges they've created, how many activities have they started. Maybe they're only on just one activity, so maybe they're a bit behind. And then you have the proficiency report for this specific student, again, showing how proficient they are in the different coding concepts across all the courses they've already started. And of course, you can see when they last logged on. So this is not the final design, but this is going to be, this is the information that will be available. And we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this, your feedback on this. And I'll say again, this is all thanks to feedback we've received from our users. So we're really excited to release this. I hope you are as well. And I think that's it, unless you have any questions regarding this specifically, or we can also move on to some questions we've already received in the registration form. So a few of you already sent us some questions we'd like to answer.
And just before we get to this Q&A part, just a couple of things I wanted to also just reinforce and just kind of remind you of. In the teacher resource section is where all of the lesson plans are located. Something that we have seen a lot of questions coming in is we do have this Teaching with Coding Adventure course here. It's me, if you haven't gotten tired of me, but it will kind of introduce you to a few of the concepts. Well, it will introduce you to the concepts that are covered in part 1 of Coding Adventure, which are also concepts you see in other places in other courses. So if you're looking for something to just kind of reinforce that piece, maybe something you're not sure about too well yourself, this is a really great way to see that in a more visual way. In addition to that, you can always see the webinars at any other time, the how-to guides, nothing too much has changed there. The solutions, just a reminder, they're here and on the progress page as well. And then in the Help Center, so you can locate the Help Center on the left-hand corner. We do always have any of the resources that we shared with you today are pretty much located here on the Help page. So we have the student login guides. There is a Getting Started for teachers. We do have a video guide here, how to create classrooms. We also have something as well that we just recently added here, and that is Coding Adventure. So we do have the coding concepts and terminology located here. It does have the specific concepts that are covered in animated image that's here. It shows you what it looks like, as well as just basically a walkthrough of those concepts for Coding Adventure. And then we do also have this Getting Started with Coding Adventure. And so this walks students through basically the components of Coding Adventure from Gordo all the way through the story map. So this is just a good introduction that you can utilize with your students when introducing this course, especially virtually. This will really help, with that, or it's just fun for them to listen sometimes to others than just ourselves, right? So just wanted to share that component with you so you kind of knew that as well. Another question that had come up this week was being able to remix something in Discover. And so this is just something to note here in your classrooms page itself. When you go to the showroom, that's where all of the students' games and challenges are showcased. If you don't have the Discover enabled, you're not able to remix the games. The students actually won't even see the Discover tab themselves. So that's just something that has been kind of brought to our attention a couple of times, just some wonderings about why they can't see it. And so if they can't see it, it's just because the Enable Discover hasn't been there. And why would you utilize the Discover? This is really good for working through an engineering design process, remixing games, maybe changing some modifications, and even working through some pseudo coding itself would be some really good ways to use the Discover as well. Okay, so it's quite quiet for questions, but now we would like to hear your questions, see any wonderings that you have, anything you would like us to touch base on. We really want this to be a time to honor your time as well. We know that your questions are very valuable, and we very much value your feedback or wonderings or any of that. So I will move to some questions that came from our Q&A as well. So a question was, how do we delete email addresses and don't have it account against your number of users? So when you're importing through Google Classroom, as you've noticed, it will just automatically take the seats up. So if you're having an issue, if you feel like something has not been correct, or there's been an issue, you can just email us at support@codemonkey.com and we'll be sure to take care of that for you. Another question here was, when can we give the certificates? How many levels do students need to complete? So we do have certificates for all of the courses. I definitely recommend giving the certificates to students after they've completed a course. But obviously it's totally up to you. Okay, so this is a great question here. We have, I'm new to joining CodeMonkey, and I have some questions. One is, will I need to create a new classroom for every session? So for the students that you've had in your classrooms, it is best to create a classroom for every session. So whether you're importing that from Google Classroom, you're sharing a class code with them. Just something to note is when you do archive your students, let's say you don't want to see all of the classrooms active within the classrooms page, when you archive them here, basically the students' data is still there. The students' data doesn't disappear. I know we get a lot of questions about that too. What if I archive them and they come and see me again for the next semester? Sometimes that happens. As long as they become active again and they keep the same username, password, same login information, their data stays the same for the lifetime of their account. So their progress saves, all of that kind of thing. Would a classroom purchase now extended to the next academic year? Pete, that's a great question. That's something that would be best to reach out to your sales rep or to ask that question depending on the length of your subscription. But a way to see where your subscription and how long it's been active, if you can't remember, is here. I'm on the My Classrooms page. When you click on View All, you're able to see the name of your subscription and then when your subscription starts and ends. So that's just a good way to check that out as well. Okay, I'm just looking for some questions here for you. Okay, I'm gonna get back to that. Okay, so upgrading, how does this work? Should I use this instead of renaming a classroom? So here on my classrooms page, you're able to see the upgrade button here. Basically, upgrade just means applying a new subscription. So let's say your subscription has expired. Now, when you upgrade it, that just means that you're upgrading either from your free trial to your paid subscription, or reapplying your classroom to the new subscription. So that's just a way basically to say, hey, I want my new subscription attached to my classroom. So
Lena, should I show it on my screen, because I have one expired classroom? Sure. I can quickly show this. So this is as Lena said. So if you have a new subscription with CodeMonkey, but you want your classroom to continue, or you might have used our trial and then purchased a subscription, and now you want to move the classroom from your trial to your new subscription. So there's no need to create a new classroom and create new student accounts. You can just upgrade using this button, and upgrade basically means moving a classroom between subscriptions. You'll have a few pop-up messages here just asking you to review if you are actually looking to have all the students upgraded with the classroom. If not, you can first archive them so they won't move over to the new classroom. But then you can continue, just choose the subscription you want to upgrade the classroom to and click on upgrade. And then, as you can see, the classroom is now part of the new subscription. So that's the upgrade button.
Great. Another question here we have, or just a comment from one of our teachers, is for students logging in. This teacher, Alan, he is here in Texas, located with myself as well. But he created a Google slide that has the app links to it. And then he just uses the login URL. And then the students, all they have to do is find their name and click on the password. So that's great for the younger students. That is that classroom login URL that you can share. So there's a lot of ways to, kind of make that a little bit easier. Another question is here. I have 9-year-old kids. Which course is best suited to start with? So it's just really going to depend on the exposure that your students have had to coding prior to that. Sometimes if I have kiddos that are around that age range, it might be best to start them with Beaver Achiever just to get them excited about it. Sometimes the switch from block-based to text-based can be a bit challenging, although 9 years old is about the sweet spot for getting them into coding adventure. But sometimes, just to kind of get them hyped about coding itself and really ready for that next step, sometimes a Beaver Achiever can be a good starting point. I also think it's a very fun course. So it's really good for anyone to kind of check out. And then Molly, our panelist, also shared with you, you can always go to codemonkey.com/courses, or in our help center, we do have some good articles regarding that as well, for just some kind of help there. Another question here that we got from our questions for registration was how best to teach functions and variables. So a good question about questions and how to teach functions and variables. I definitely recommend when you're teaching variables to use the skill mode challenges and have your students practice those skill mode challenges. Something I'm not sure when you started using CodeMonkey or that, but let me show you a couple of components about the variables itself. So we recently added something to the variables page and the variables challenges here. And so I'll just go right into one of the variables themselves. So I recommend that the students work on these variables here and then work on those variable challenges. But let's say I go to challenge 46. I have to remember which challenge is the best one to showcase to you. So here we see, I'll just kind of talk through this really, really quickly. So basically what we see here is obviously the stage on the left, the script and text editor on the right-hand side. And here we see a variable. So variable is a container. It contains it contains a value, and the value here that we have is 5. Why is the value of 5 here? Well, we can see that we can either pick up the ruler and measure the distance, or in this number line here, it actually tells us what the distance is. Oh, I'm sorry. I realized I wasn't sharing. That's my fault. Good point here. Okay, so I'm on challenge 46 on Coding Adventure, and so I'll just kind of walk through this really quickly. So we have the monkey here, and we have some values on the number lines, and here we see that D is container, and the D is the container value for 5. We set it as 5 because we know that's how much he needs to move. And then we'll see that he also is then next going to need to move a distance of 5. So what do? So we know that the very first step that this monkey is going to take is going to be that value of 5. Then we set it to turn right like anything else. And then what we have here is a variable statement. So basically, what do we want it to increase? Well, we know that 5 plus 5 is 10. So we want it to actually increase by a difference of 5. So what we'll see here, and then we'll run it. So when it gets to this statement, it's adding the value. It's either adding, it's like an additive pattern, or it's a subtraction. So it's either adding or taking away. And so here we're going to add a value of 5. And that means that the new container will be 10. So I want you to pay attention here at the bottom, basically where the buttons are, and you're able to see this. So here we can see the value is 5. And then when we got to that variable statement, the value changed to 10. And so that's just a really good way to kind of show that a little bit more so about the variables, and then practicing those variables when you get to those skill mode challenges. I also recommend checking out those coding concepts that I had mentioned there, either checking out the variables here or checking that out from the Help Center article. And then with functions, I'll just briefly go to a function that I know is a tricky part. So there are functions here. This is more complex functions here. So I'll just kind of talk through what we see here. So instead of having the monkey, we have a rat, and the rat has to collect matches. And then the rat has to take the match back to the pile. So we basically set the function. We're basically naming this function. It could be anything here. I just named it go-to, and we have a placeholder. The placeholder is A. It doesn't have any value at all. All we're saying is that every time we write go to, we want it to turn to whatever object we've determined and then step the distance to that specific object. So here we can see that we want it to, every time we run go to, so what it's going to do, it's going to turn to the bridge and step the distance to the bridge. Then it's going to turn to the match and step the distance to the match. And then it's going to grab it and drop it. So we're going to see that it's going to be a short code, but you'll also see it's running here. What is A representing? It represented the match and it represented the bridge. Now there was an extra step. I needed to go to the pile, but we can see it here. A is the bridge, A is the match, then it's the bridge, and then it's going to the pile. So A is just kind of a placeholder. So we added this new functions box, descriptions box to kind of help with that. So just some things I recommend with that. So I think there were not any more questions here. Let me just check our Q&A here. Is there a way to see more difficult coding classes in the free trial to see how much more complex it will become? Billy, I think it would be best to get in contact with our sales team. So you can contact sales@codemonkey.com and we can kind of help you with that, just depending on, kind of what things you're looking at, and just want to make sure that we're able to meet your needs in the best way possible. All right, so I just wanted to mention, I'm just going to do one more screen share here. We are going to be doing our first ever Twitter chat, March 23rd at 6 p.m. Central, and that's going to be led by our teacher ambassadors, Paige and Javier, and they're going to be discussing synchronous and asynchronous coding. So if you're available, we hope you can join us during that time. If not, share chat with other people. Hopefully they'll also be just as excited as we are about this Twitter chat that we'll be hosting, and it's our very first one, so it's pretty exciting. Okay, so if you need help with anything along the way, you can always contact our support at CodeMonkey.com, or some of you have found that you can right here on the dropdown, as I'm on the platform itself, here you can click on contact us, and that will send us a direct message to our support team as well. So you can do that any other way. You can also go to help.codemonkey.com. That will take you to most of the things that we've covered for today. And if there are not any other questions, can we get a copy of this recording? Our recordings are always held on our webinars page, and we'll also send out a link to the recording after today's session as well, so you have that available. I just want to personally, before we sign off today, I just want to thank all of you that have joined us. We have some new teachers from all over the world. Michelle, it's really great to see you, and the Adams 12 team. Alan, great to see you. Katie, also good to see you as well. And those of you that I don't personally have not connected with as well, we just want to thank you so much for joining us. We know how valuable your time is, And we hope that you were able to get some value from today's webinar and hopefully learn some new things. We're really excited about the new student dashboard, and I hope you are too. Again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to support@codemonkey.com or your direct sales rep that you've worked with personally. And then always check out those help articles. There's some really great resources there that you'll find that you're able to utilize within your classroom. So as always, we want to thank you so much again for joining us and spending your time. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social medias, and remember to write code, catch bananas, and save the world. And until next quarter, we'll see you guys again. Bye-bye.